voice that I did for this character or whatever. I'm a big believer in paying it forward. I learned from a lot of people in this business, and I feel like maybe I can give you some insight into what this world is all about, so that this creative group of people might either find a way to pursue their dreams of either being an actor, director, producer, music composer, whatever, writer, and that you see that there is somewhere where your crazy, quirky, creative passion fits to make a living, or at least pursue a job path that is fulfilling, so that your parents don't tell you to go just get a job already, would you? I believe that there is no clear one path. You just have to have a passion and follow through with it, and not just sit by the phone waiting for it to ring, but actually pursue it. Because success is the journey, not the pot of gold. If you enjoy the process, you are successful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And yes, it says no philosophical questions, but I'm a very philosophical guy. I will also say this, that there are only two people who tell you you can't. Those that can't do it themselves, and those that are jealous that you have the ability to do it. So if someone tells you, don't pursue voice acting, because there are too many voice actors out there already, then if you listen to that, we would have no voice actors. Same reason if they said there's too many painters, there's too many musicians, there's too many writers. Don't do that, there's too many. The competition is too fierce. Then we'd have no one in the arts. So don't listen to can't. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be handed to you. It means that you have to still work hard at what you want to be. I didn't start off with this dream of being a voice actor, even an actor. I'm a musician first. That was my passion. I love performing, I love playing music, I love writing music. Voice acting just sort of happened. But when it happened, it made a lot of sense to me. Being a singer is very helpful in the voiceover world. Does anyone know why, besides being the same instrument?
You just sing, okay. Controlling
your voice, yes. Vocal cords. Okay, so here's another thing. Yes, so pitch, right? Inflection is pitch. Do you want to go to the store? Do you want to go to the store? Do you want to go to the store? I could say the same sentence different ways, and they mean different things because I changed the pitch of a certain word. So if you have control as a singer to change the pitch in your reads, you're already 2 steps ahead of the average person in the voiceover world. Because unlike stage acting, and we call them face actors, people you want to see, not that have a face for radio, I don't have the crutch of body language to sell a performance. Gestures, the way I hold myself. I have to do that all with just my voice. So if you have control, as a singer would, about inflection, someone will say, can you go for that word? That means, can you change the pitch on that word? So it's very helpful if you are musical. Also, one of the things that I do for a living is match lip flap, right? I call myself the king of lip flap. That's what I call myself. One of the first behind-the-scenes DVD interviews for like Pokémon 1, the first movie, what are we up to now, Pokémon 35 or something like that? I actually said that because one of the things that's really helpful is when we're matching lip flap is paying attention to the pace and the cadence of the mouth moving, right? How many of you guys, if you heard a song on the radio for the first time, could sing the second chorus because if it was the same words? How many of you guys could sing it, right? Yeah. You know why? Because you are studying the pace. I don't mean you have to sing it on pitch. Your voice might be not the greatest voice, but your timing, you'll be able to sing along with the timing of it because you have digested that pace. So when you are doing, hey Nick, can you do me a favor? Close the door for me now that we started? They can still come in. It's just that a little distracting hear that in my ear. So if you are watching lip flap and you see 3, then a beat, then 2, then a beat, then 5, you will know how to read that because you learned the pace. So being rhythmic, once again, musical, is very helpful in this part of the voice acting world. But let's get back to the basics. Voice acting is acting. So if you want to be a voice actor, you basically just have to get involved in anything that involves acting. Whether it's improv with your friends, whether it's taking classes, whether it's in school, you participate in a play, whether it's you write your own monologues. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter if it's a paying gig. If you are trying to master your craft, you find every opportunity to do it. Now, you might say, well, I mean, you work in these hit cartoons and you do these funny voices and all of that. But the key to voice acting is not how many funny voices you can do. It's not how many impersonations you can do. It's can you read any script that's handed to you as if you know what you're talking about even when you don't. And I could read you any script, whether it be how to dismantle a car engine to using a feminine hygiene product, and you will think, God, this guy knows what he's talking about. And you know why? Because you got to break it down to the basics. There is nothing new. There's nothing new. There's no new idea. It's just a new way to tell it. You can have Romeo and Juliet told in 100 different ways. It's still Romeo and Juliet. Those character types are still in there, right? So what I do is I get a script and I say, well, who am I? When I say who am I don't mean, I know I'm Eric. I mean, I'm old, but I still remember that. But I say, who am I? Am I the friendly next-door neighbor? Am I the obnoxious buddy? Am I the caring dad? Who am I? So once I decide who I am, then I say, well, what am I talking about? And I don't mean the 9,000 little nuances of every little detail. What am I talking about? I'm selling a pizza at Pizza Hut. And it comes with, you buy one, you get one free. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know if it's good. I don't need to know if it's nearby. I don't need to know any of that stuff. I don't need to know how many toppings it comes with. I'm just selling a pizza. Buy one, get one free. Now, who am I talking to? Am I talking to my next-door neighbor? Am I talking to a crowd of people? Am I talking to my mom? Whatever. If I can break it down to those 3 things, who am I, what am I talking about, and who am I talking to, then I could read any script with credibility. And that's the secret to voice acting, is being believable. The words on the page are your words. I know very, very great stage actors that when given a script sound like they are reading a script. Now, that script might be poorly written. Trust me, I've seen those many times. But you still have to find a way to make it sound conversational, like it's your own voice. So what I do is I have my little bag of tricks. That's what I call my voices, my little bag of tricks. I know where I'm starting from. See, in an audition process, sometimes someone will say to you, okay, we need this to just be kind of light and friendly, but serious, happy, but kind of sad, and bright, but not really excited. And you go, all right. So you start with something that you know, because one of 2 things will happen. You read it a certain way, and they'll either say, that's great. Can you do that just a little faster? Or just a little more energy? That's exactly what we're looking for. Or, that's totally not what we want. Don't ever do that character again. and do the complete opposite. If you don't remember what you just did because it was some random moment in your life, you can't correct it and you can't repeat it. So if you have in your little bag of tricks places that you start with all the time, you can either change it or repeat it. So you don't have to be a man of 1,000 voices. You could be a man of 10 voices. And from those 10 voices, whether it's different registers, different amount of energy, you can add an accent, and all of a sudden you're doing 20 voices. You can slow it down, add a speech impediment. Now you're doing 30 voices. But they're all starting from the same spot. They're all starting from your bag of tricks. So don't try to accomplish 1,000,000 different voices. First, start with your voice. How can you read any script from a place of being credible? If you can master that, you might have a chance to work. The other thing is, a lot of times I will hear people promising, those that want to coach, those that want to teach, work with me and I will promise you work. You'll be working in the voiceover industry in no time. Well, that's kind of ridiculous, because if I knew that secret, I'd be working every day on 10 different voiceovers and I wouldn't have to do anything else. There's no secret to that. There's no magical pill. Basically, if you're working with someone, if you do find a coach or someone to train with, basically they are going to get you to be competitive. You should at least be able to get up to bat and give it the best performance you can do. There is no promise of work, right? Because also think about it. You're competing against guys like me. Now you might get the gig, because what separates the people that get it to the people that don't get it are things that we cannot control. If you have two people that are just doing a great read, let me give you a scenario. So we're in the voiceover business, right? Does anyone need to know what I look like when I audition? Do you know how many casting directors I know that their clients want to be in this casting session? They want to be in the casting session. So, would you cast me for an old woman? No, but I've played old women in cartoons. Would you, I've played different ethnic groups, I've played different sexes, I've played all sorts of different ages, because in the voiceover business, it's what you can sound like, not what you look like. So actors that send out their headshot along with their voiceover demo are only doing a disservice to themselves. No one should ever see what you look like as a voice actor. Do you think that Bart Simpson would have been cast, a woman would have been cast as Bart Simpson if they saw her first? No, it doesn't work like that. So, think about what you can sound like. Now, that also means, how do I judge what I can sound like? If you're even thinking about doing dialects and accents, there are two sides of that. There are the comedic caricature versions of those accents, and then there are the legit versions of those accents. I've done a lot of audiobooks that have been Civil War books and things like that, where I've had to go and listen to regional Southern accents so that it's true to the story. Because if someone said, I want you to do a Southern accent, how many of us are in here? 100 people? You would give me 100 different versions of a Southern accent, because Southern accent means nothing. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. You want to do a Tennessee accent? You want to do a Georgia accent? You want to say Texas twang? What are you doing? Right? But if you're doing a legit one, same thing with British accents. Oh, I do a fantastic British accent. From where? What part of England are we talking about? Oh, right. Yeah. So if you're going to do legit stuff, you've really got to focus on that. You've really got to study it. But that's all like bonus things. Master the art of sounding like yourself, but reading scripts as if you know what you're talking about even when you don't. Okay, so there's my initial ramble. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask me? And I will say this right now. Take advantage of the fact that I'm willing to give you insight into this world. Don't ask me if I like Brock or James better. You can ask me that at my table when we're doing autographs. Don't miss the opportunity, if you are truly interested in this world, to pick my brain. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Right. So I have a degree in theater.
Right.
So because I heard that, I'm interested in all types of acting.
Great.
And so, is there particular schools of acting I should be focusing on for voice acting? Like for voice acting, is it better to study Meisner or?
Oh, good. See, very good question. This is truly an acting student. So, here's the thing. I believe in those different processes. I don't follow them myself, so I really can't say which one I would recommend. I don't overthink this part of my life. I overthink everything else, okay? I'm neurotic. I'm OCD. I'm a crazy person when it comes to a lot of things. But when it comes to acting, I try to simplify. I try to break it down to the nuts and bolts so that I don't get caught up in the things that could make me sound like I'm not credible, or that I don't understand the copy, or I'm speaking a way that doesn't sound natural. So in terms of how to interpret voice acting, I would say don't think about, well, what path, which technique should I go for? Go the other way. Think, well, how can I make this as basic as possible? Because most of voiceover work, they're commercials. Now, you guys know me from cartoons, which is a 20-minute commercial. No, I'm serious. Unfortunately. But that's what most voiceover work is. You are selling something. And if it sounds like you're selling something, you're doing a bad job at selling something. That's bad voice acting. If you're selling it in a way that I all of a sudden think, this guy sounds so, he really knows what he's talking about, and I'm a little afraid to make that investment and put my money away in this kind of savings account, but he seems to know what he's talking about, and maybe I should do that. Then you're doing a great job at selling it, and you might not know how to even add 2 and 5, which I don't. I think that's 7. So I would say that's not my expertise. My expertise is the opposite, which is breaking it down to the bare bones, nuts and bolts, especially for this. Now, when I've done acting that's more of an audio, like a play, like a radio drama, then I start to think about characters and emotions. I like, for instance, let's look at like a show like Yu-Gi-Oh, okay? Fans always say, do you know how to play? Now, I directed Yu-Gi-Oh as well, all right? And I'm Seto Kaiba, right? I'm the world's greatest duelist except for Yugi who cheats, right? So everyone's like, do you know how to play the game? And I'm like, no, but I could still beat you. And they're like, what are you talking about? So the reason I can play a character like that comes across hopefully as believable is for 2 reasons. I played a lot of sports in school. So I know all about competition. That's what's going on between them during the matches. Okay? I'm also a big family guy. So I understand the dynamic of he can put on this arrogant bravado, but we know that just underneath that, he would lay down on a train track for his brother because family is first. I don't need to understand the nuances of that show. I'll let you in on a little secret. I directed that show. I acted in that show for 10 years. I never read a script ahead of time because there was nothing in that show that was going to surprise me. Because I understood the dynamic of the show and I understood the dynamic of the character. Because I broke it down to what I could relate to. So I do believe in that. If I'm asking you to cry in a scene, you should think about something that has upset you and channel that. But I don't believe that if you were playing Abraham Lincoln in a movie, I should address you as Lincoln during the entire filming of the movie. That's not my thing. Otherwise, I'd be really weird at work if they called me Kaiba. I mean, it's kind of cool, but still. But good question. All right, who's got another question for me? Yeah.
This is about voice directing. I have a little experience doing it.
Yeah.
Is it always best to give the actor like room to like improvise or ad-lib? Because I feel like a lot of your Kaiba one-liners, you ad-lib them.
Okay, so the question is about directing and ad-libbing. So he said a lot of my Kaiba lines sound like I ad-libbed them. You know why? Because I read them like they were my lines. I probably ad-libbed 5% of what you heard on those. But they were written by people that understood my character, and they were directed by someone that understood my character, and they were read by an actor that understood his character. In terms of voice directing, and I do a different panel on that side of it because besides directing, I help produce a lot of these things, so I understand what goes into making the shows. But I'll just touch on this for a second. Voice directing is an interesting art. Directing is an interesting art because the way we speak to people is individual. I couldn't give you a blanket direction and expect you all to give me back what I'm asking for because you'd all have 100 different versions of what I'm asking you to do. Now, I might ask the same thing of you, but I need to ask you individually in a different way. Well, what do you mean by that, Eric? I don't understand. Picture a dinner party. You're invited to this dinner party. Maybe there's 10 people there. One of your friends invited you. You don't know the rest of them, right? Dinner's going kind of well, and you decide you're going to tell a little off-color joke. You tell this joke, and based on the body language around the room, you would know, if you were paying attention, who you could tell another joke just like that to, who you could never tell a joke like that to, who thought it was funny, but let's not go there again, right? If you're paying attention. It's the same thing. I could ask one actor to do something in a certain way, and they might be very arrogant, and you have to be gentle with that kind of approach so that there's not a confrontation. Or you can work with someone that knows you really well. You sense that you can joke around with them. My buddy Dan Green, who plays Yugi, very, very dear friend of mine. Yes, yes. I directed him for years. And Dan is an excellent actor. He's also a very dear friend of mine. So I could say to him, hey man, that was really good, but on this next one, let's try it with some talent. And he would laugh and still give me what I want, but I was able to get away with that little dig. But if I had said that to someone who didn't understand the nuance of my sense of humor, they might not feel comfortable to give me the performance I want. I saw a director once give direction to an actress to cry during a scene, and when she did it, he laughed at her and said, I didn't believe that at all. Do you think she tried to cry for him again? No. So you must pay attention to who you are directing, because you can't just give a blanket direction. It's the way you talk to people. We are in a crazy society now of this. This is what we do. We stand with people and we look at our freaking phones. And you want to be a voice actor? That's communication. This is not communication. Can I give you sarcasm? What, with an emoji? Would you laugh at my jokes as James if I texted them to you? No. Why don't I play Pokémon Go? I'll tell you why I don't play it. You know why that game is messed up? Because it shouldn't be looking at your screen. It should be audio telling you how close you're getting, so that when you're standing with a bunch of your friends, you're actually looking at your friends. instead of looking at your freaking phones. So if you want to be a voice actor and you want to be a director, communicate with people and pay attention to how they respond. If you don't, you will be a terrible director. If you don't listen to a director, you will be a terrible voice actor. You must pay attention. So that answers your question about that. Ad-libbing is fine if you are asked. A lot of scripts can't be changed in commercials because they have gone through the legal process. They have gone through an entire division that says, you can't say this is the world's greatest tasting peanut butter. We don't have that title yet. So you can't have them change that stuff. In cartoons, sometimes, but not Saturday morning national cartoons that I worked on. Here's a little piece of information that I'm sure many of you have misinformation about. Man, you guys censored everything that you aired on Pokémon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And you cut out all the things like guns being pointed at people's heads and swords being shoved in somebody's heart. I can't believe you ruined that anime, that you guys did all this censorship. Do you want to know who did the censorship for all of those shows? There's a little thing called BSNP, Broadcast Standards and Practices. When you air anything during the Saturday morning slot of 6 a.m. to 12 on Saturday mornings in America on any network, that network dictates what you see, not the production company. We would submit every show, every script, every visual to the BSNP for Fox and for WB, and they would come back with a list of things we had to change. We had no say. And do you know why they changed those things? Because you couldn't show a gun being pointed at someone's head on Saturday mornings, and you couldn't show a sword cutting off someone's head on Saturday mornings, even though I grew up with Roadrunner and I didn't kill any of my siblings. But you can't do it. Now, the other thing is that it's arbitrary based on the person who's in charge of BSNP at those networks at that specific time. So I had a little trick that we used to play. I directed a very funny show called Viva Pinata. If you haven't seen that show, you need to. I think all of the episodes are on Hulu. It's 10-minute episodes about nothing. I call it the Seinfeld of cartoons. That was done as a prelay show. Does anyone know the difference between prelay and ADR? Does anyone want to pipe in? Yes?
Prelay is where they they do the voices first before the animation.
Correct. So is Pokemon a prelay show or an ADR show? It's a prelay show in Japan. Right. So I directed Viva Pinata as a prelay show. I recorded each actor individually, never in the booth at the same time, and then constructed their dialogue to sound like they were talking to each other. Could two directors have done that at the same time? No, it takes one director. Why? Because I would have them read lines knowing what I was going to have the other actor do. So it sounded like they were talking to each other. It's like, think about Abbott and Costello, who's on first? One director recording Abbott and the other one directing Costello and trying to put them together. Never work, because you have to know what the joke is. So we did that show, and we could do anything we wanted. There was no original version of it. We wrote those scripts from scratch. We had a team. It was like a sitcom. We had like 6 writers writing every episode, like in a room together. It was great. And then I directed that show. I also played Pecky Pudgeon on that. For those of you who don't know, I'm originally from Brooklyn, and every show I've ever been on, there's been a character from New York that has the worst Brooklyn accent. So finally, when I had a chance to play a Brooklyn accent, I did it the right way. So if you listen to Pecky Pudgeon, he's basically Joe Pesci, who's like the guy that every guy that I grew up with talked like this in my neighborhood. How you doing, Eric? How's your mother? She good? Yeah, she good, yeah. They all spoke like that, even the women. Anyway, so it was a great show, but we had some jokes in there. Let me just take a step back. The art of double entendres is much funnier than cursing. If you go to a curse in your joke, I'm not impressed. Now, Richard Pryor was the king of that. That's where it needed to end. That was great. It was perfect. But like in cartoons, if you go straight to the toilet, you go straight to the profanity, that's a cop-out. Tell a joke that maybe the parents get, the kids don't, and then when they watch the show 20 years later, they go, oh. So we had some lines in our show that were funny and kind of risque, but subtle. So we would play the game of 3 sending stuff to the people in the BSMP. We would submit the show with a joke that we knew would never get through. And then we would submit 2 other versions, the joke we wanted and the joke that wasn't funny. They would get back to us and say, joke A, there's no way we're airing that. This is funny though, how could you not air this? There's no way. This is making the show. We're not airing it. Fine, then let's go with joke C. Well, that's not funny. Fine, how about B? Yeah, all right, we'll go with B. How they didn't catch on to that, I don't know. But anyway, that was to answer your question about, 4 kids did all this stuff. Now, we produced the stuff, but we didn't change the stuff because we wanted to. We had to. Now, the positive side of that is, 20 years ago when we created the madness of Pokémon, it also made anime no longer the stuff you found in the back of a video store tucked away in a corner, but made it mainstream enough that we have conventions all over the world with people cosplaying and hanging out with each other and actually knowing who Pikachu is. And you wouldn't have that if it were not for the marketing of a show like that. So remember, there's the pros and the cons. I don't like censorship. I believe that parents should be the ones that are the filters for their kids. I believe that if they have questions, they should ask their parents, and it's up to that household. But a lot of people just stuck their kids in front of television Saturday mornings while they did things. And they're not monitoring what their kids are watching. We have rules about after 9 o'clock. That's when we start killing people on television, right? But Saturday morning didn't have that. So these rules were in place so that kids didn't try to reenact these things. I did that as a kid. You know, we all reenacted these things. But of course, I was watching things like Battle of the Planets. I wanted to be in G-Force. That's old anime for you guys who are not, Anyway, so who's got another question for me? We got a little bit more time. Yeah.
I was in a sound design class.
Yes.
In the sound design class, we had the beautiful comedy reel of everyone trying to do an impression of Captain Hook. And then there comes me, and I found myself being the worst critic of the bunch. I was wondering, do you think that there is an unhealthy criticism from the creator's voice by comparison to everyone else? And it would be best to try to balance out the criticism.
Wait, so you were the most critical of everyone else's performance? You were most critical of your own voice. So how many people here like their own voice? You can be honest. I don't mind if you say you do. I love my voice. I do. I'm very blessed to have, been born with this. This is my instrument. If I get sick and I can't do stuff, or I fear losing my voice, that's like the worst thing for me. Communication, all of that, that's me. That's who I am. Okay, so most people don't like the sound of their own voice. Why? Do you think it's nasal? Oh, it's not very interesting? That's ridiculous. Do you have people that ever listen to you? Do you tell stories to your friends? Do they pay attention to you? I don't know. Maybe that means your voice isn't so annoying that they actually are listening to the content. Right? Oh, I have a little speech impediment, or I have a lisp. Okay. Some of my very, very well-known voice actor friends have speech impediments. It's part of their thing. That's what they do. Donald Sutherland has a speech impediment. Christian Bale has a speech impediment. That's how he talks. Everything is slushy. Okay, so don't be so harsh on yourself, your own voice. You can be critical of your own performance, but I'll tell you a little secret that I've learned over the many, many years that I've been doing both voice acting and production and singing and production. I have become very good at, when I'm done in the booth and I sit down to edit, I'm no longer Eric Stuart, the voice actor. I'm Eric Stuart, the engineer and producer. So I can be critical of that read, but not, I don't know if this is good enough to even be on here. No. There's a noise there. Let me fix that. I didn't really hear the T on that sentence, that word there. Let me fix that. Technical stuff. Separating the two. You know, in the beginning, it's very helpful to work with someone else. And if you need to be built up, well, we can always look at glass half empty or glass half full, right? Well, maybe you need to be working with someone that's at least telling you the good stuff about what you're doing. And doing an accent and doing it terribly, we all do that. I've turned down auditions when they've asked me to do things because I don't do those accents very well. I know I don't. Oh, come on, Eric, you do all this stuff. I don't do that. I know guys that do that better than I do, so call them. Let me do what I do well. But enjoy what you do well, even if it's one thing. If you can just be you in a credible way, you can make a living doing that. That could be your thing. How many character voices do you think James Earl Jones does? Exactly. All right, who's got another question for me? In the white jacket there. Is that white and gray?
Yes, white and gray.
Do you have any tips on learning accents quickly?
I love YouTube. There's some great vocal teachers on YouTube. You can find some amazing people that will go through the list of certain dialects and regionalisms and things like that. Audio books read by people from those places. Or you can study with a dialect coach. You could do that, but that's money. I've found some great people on YouTube. Or if there's a movie where someone has done a really good version of that accent that you want to listen to, that's also helpful. I had to do an audio book. It was a very funny book where I had to play Elvis. It was fiction. Well, it could be real. Elvis fakes his death, comes back with plastic surgery, and he's a private investigator trying to solve a murder. And the whole audiobook is read in his voice. He's telling the whole story, so I had to read the other characters in Elvis's voice. Now I'm a huge Elvis fan. I have so many Elvis albums. I own most of his movies. Not all of them are very good. But what I did was, when I had to do this book, I went and watched a whole bunch of his movies. So start to get that cadence into my brain. So if you were asked to do something that's specific to a period piece or whatever, there are some movies that do some great accents, and there's some movies that do terrible accents. So you have to make sure that the ratings are not like, The Devil's Own, the worst Irish accent ever done by Brad Pitt. You don't want to be doing that one. Where I think Harrison Ford threatened to punch him in the nose if he didn't do it any better. Anyway, but yeah, that's what I would say. YouTube is a great place for that. All right, who's got another question for me? You already had a question for, now you, yes.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten as a voice actor?
Forget every audition when you walk out of the door. There's a joke that the best audition is in the car ride home. Oh, that's what I should have done. Don't think about the jobs you could have. You go in and you do your thing, and then forget it. And if a week later you get a call that says, "We loved what you did," and you go, "What was that?" "Oh, right, the bank thing." "Okay, great. Yeah, we want to book you." "Great, fine. That's great." But if you stress over the potential earnings, there were days when I was in New York, there were days that I'd come home, and if I added up what I could have made if I booked all 5 of those auditions, I wouldn't have to work for the rest of the year. But I'd be stressed out and then be disappointed if I didn't get them. So you have to forget it. The things that go into who makes these decisions is so ridiculous. I've sat in casting sessions where someone has come in and done a fantastic job and they leave and we all go, oh man, that was awesome. He's perfect for this role. And someone says, he looks just like my ex-boyfriend. There's no way I'm working with him every day for the next year. But he's not your ex-boyfriend. Yeah, I know, but he looks just like him. Be too much of a painful reminder every time I saw him coming in. Okay, that's interesting. Or two people audition for it and they're both great. And you're like, well, he's better than he is at this part of it, and he's better than this part of it, and, well, I don't know. We like dealing with this agency better than this agency. Let's give it to that guy. And you're like, but you're not even thinking about talent. So you are only in control of what you can control, which is when you walk into the booth and you're handed a script, you do what you do yourself, and you do it well, and then you forget it. You can't. Acting and auditioning is like going on a blind date every day. You are not selling widgets. You are not selling, I'm selling a car. When someone says they don't like your performance, it's you. It's not your product. So you need to remember that if you just think of it as, I'm only capable of doing this. If this is what they're looking for, I'm great at that. If that's not what they're looking for, okay, they were looking for something else. It doesn't mean I wasn't good at what I do. So you can't stress out about it. It's hard. I know these words sound, this is from a grizzled veteran who's been doing this forever. I don't care anymore. I really don't. I know what I do well. And if they don't get it, that's their loss. If they get it, great. But you got to know how to let it go and not overthink it. And that goes back to what you were talking about, this whole process. If you go in and you read it the way that you know how to read something, that you are comfortable, the direction you know how to do something, then you'll feel like you gave your best audition. If you start second-guessing yourself, you're going to give some, there's a saying, a camel is a horse designed by a committee. That's what you're going to give them, a camel. Some convoluted thing that's mixed of all these different, trying to second-guess what they're looking for. And if you are lucky enough to go into a session, get booked, and you've got that big glass window where you feel like you were in an aquarium, and there's 8 people sitting on that side of the glass, and you're standing there by yourself in this booth, and the only thing you can hear is when they push the talk back to talk to you. Yeah, Eric, can we try another one? Yeah, let's just try one more. That's all you hear. What you see is people talking to each other. This is what you'll experience. This is how crazy this business is. This is why you can't get stressed out about it. I've experienced this. Hey, yeah, okay, Eric, can we just try one? Let's see what you've got in mind for this AT&T spot. Let's just give it a read. You read it. Nice, friendly guy. You finish, you look up. This is what you see, the engineer. Turning to the clients, right? And this is what the clients are doing. Right? And you're going, they hate me. They realized they booked the wrong guy. I was number 9 and they wanted number 8. Oh, yeah, on the casting tape, yeah. They hate me. They hate everything, and they're like, yeah, can we just try one more? Just try one more from the top. Okay, yeah, we're rolling on take 2. Then you try another one, and you do the same thing. Maybe a little faster. No direction. Next take, engineer looks back. They're shaking their head, the whole thing. And you think they hate you. But this is what they're really saying. I asked for the roast beef. Why did you bring me a turkey sandwich? They were out of roast beef. Okay? Next time you order, fine. They're not even paying attention. So that story is the industry. I did a great job, and I think I did 5 takes, and I was done, and I got paid, and they were like, and they brought me back, and I did a whole campaign for them. They loved me. I wouldn't know that. if I paid attention to all of their lunch order bickering. So don't pay attention. You do what you do, and you go, I did a great job. If these guys want to fight about roast beef and turkey, that's all good with me, man. Just, you know where to send the check. So that's my advice to you. Let it go. Don't overthink it. All right, who's got another question for me? Yes.
In terms of representing yourself or being involved in the community, how important or definitely like how useful is having a guild or some sort of like organization you belong to?
Right. California, right to work state? Union state? Union, right? SAG-AFTRA, right? Yeah, I'm a SAG-AFTRA guy. A lot of the animation stuff fell into a very gray area back in the day. No one wanted to touch it. We'd even ask for contracts from SAG and from AFTRA before they were merged to help us with our shows, and they're like, we don't even know what category that falls under. So a lot of that stuff was buyout. But all of the commercials and I do and things like that, that's all SAG and stuff like that. It's helpful. It's helpful to have an agent. What's the old, you know what a Teamster is, right? Someone that drives a truck, right? To be a Teamster, you have to drive a truck for a certain amount of hours. To drive a truck for a certain amount of hours, you got to be a Teamster. How do you do, right? Catch-22, right? So when you make your demo reel and you send it to agents to see if they'll represent you, which will then hopefully lead to work that could get you into the union, you must read real commercials and produce them the way that real commercials are produced so that your agent thinks you're doing real spots when you haven't done them yet. And if they ask you if you've really done them, you can tell them the truth. But that shouldn't be what they're focusing on. I've heard more demo reels where the spot has the music fade out nicely, and then another spot starts. And I'm like, wow, did you get the original elements to that commercial to be able to then isolate the music and fade it out? Yeah, no. Do you know how demo reel is made? I get copies of every commercial I have made that are mixed together and cut them together into how long should the average commercial voiceover demo reel be? Who wants to take a guess? No, it was, how long? 15 seconds? No. In the back. No. No. This is a voiceover demo reel. It's an example of what you do for a living. You. A minute. Good guess. So usually about a minute 10. Why? Because if it's longer than that, the only people that will listen to it are people that are related to you. If I don't hear what I'm looking for in the first 3 little things you present on your demo reel, I'm not listening anymore. Do I use the full commercial? How could I use the full commercial on a demo reel if I'm cutting together a minute 10? I use pieces of commercials. Do radio commercials sound the same as TV commercials? What's the biggest difference you hear between radio and TV commercials? Someone want to take a guess? What's that? I'm only talking audio for your voiceover demo reel. Anyone want to take a guess? What's the difference? Yes. Less pauses, okay. Okay, so radio commercials are usually very warm sounding, EQ-wise. TV commercials are over-compressed and they cut, and they're usually too freaking loud. There was a law passed not that long ago to keep the commercial levels lower because they would be louder than the shows, right? Because most people get up during the commercial to go get something out of the refrigerator, and they need to hear it from everywhere in their house. When you listen to radio, where are you mostly? And unless you're getting out of your car and when there's a commercial break while you're driving, yeehaw! I remember I live in Nashville, that does happen. Sunroof, yeah! You are trapped, so you want that commercial to sound warm and comforting. And it can still be hard sell, but they sound different. So when you are making a fake demo reel, you mix those elements differently. So when you cut them together, they sound like you took them from a television commercial. You'd sound like you took them from a radio commercial. These are all tricks of the trade. I've been producing demo reels for a long, long time. So you create the facade that you've been working. Then you submit to agents or advertising agencies in town that take demo reels, local production companies that take demo reels. And the thing that they will be listening to is not whether you did these spots for real, but if they like your voice and the way you read the scripts. But if it sounds like you created your own scripts, because trust me, I will know if you wrote your own script, because you will say that this was the greatest tasting peanut butter of all time. Because you will say things that would never have passed for legal. So don't go writing your own commercials. Well, where do I get them? They're online, you can find them. But I do a really good version of the Geico lizard. Should I should do the Geico spot, right? No. No. You want to do that accent, do it on something else. And also, do stuff that's a national product with a regional twist, so that someone listening in New York won't know if that's a real commercial that ever aired. Well, what do you mean? Well, it's a McDonald's spot, and the tag is, come into Sacramento, whatever, and get a free thing of fries. Put a regional tag on it. So that's, because then it won't be like I'm doing the network national spot for McDonald's that I obviously didn't do. So it's smoke and mirrors. You make it seem like you're a working actor, then you submit to all of these other things. If you start working, then joining SAG and AFTRA is very helpful. A lot of production companies will not touch you if you're not union. Some won't touch you if you are. The main thing you need is someone helping you get work. If you can solidify a relationship with an agent, you are in a much better place, because then someone is sending you auditions. Should you ever pay to play? Do you know what that means? Do you ever pay an agent just a monthly fee? Pay a manager just a monthly fee? No. Because what does an agent work off of? Commission. If you make money, they make money. If they make money without you having to make money, they have no incentive. There's a lot of these websites that charge a fee to get audition copy. I know a lot of people that believe in those things, and I will say it till I am dead. It's bull. The idea that you have to pay for an opportunity to try to get work gives these people no incentive. You don't know if they are throwing it up into the air or submitting the stuff. So the pay-to-play stuff, bad. You can also get auditions without having to have an agent. It's harder, but there are definitely some opportunities. There are advertising agencies in every city. Is there a local car dealer here that has about 4 or 5 locations? Is the owner of that car dealership doing their own commercials? They shouldn't. Someone's writing those commercials and someone is producing those commercials. Find out who that production company is. See if they take demo reels. But before you send in your demo reel, make sure it sounds like you've been doing this forever. Don't submit something you just threw together with your favorite Rolling Stones song underneath it, because that never aired. Anyway, all right, we got 5 more minutes. Let's do speed round. Boom. Yeah.
Independent creator, if I were looking to hire professional voice actors for
Yep.
my own animated production, what are some resources available to me? Would I just contact an agency?
You can contact an agency. You can, if you wanted to be bombarded with every voice actor in the world, you could post something on social media that you were taking submissions. I know sometimes people will curb that with even like, this is not a pay-to-play thing, but this is sort of like it weeds out the things. It's like a $10 submission charge or whatever it is, just that keeps away the riffraff that goes, everyone always says I have a great voice, I should do voice acting, and then they've never done any voice acting. But you could do something like that if you have the time to weed through it. I would have sides, which are like little examples of what those characters should be prepared. So if someone does seem like they're the right fit, you have something to send to them so they can read it for you with some direction. And then go from there. A lot of production is done. I'm working on an original series with a lot of the voice actors from Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! That we created. Dan Green wrote it, and he's actually illustrating it. It's called Crossing the Gods, and it's an original series. It's all black and white, very Sin City. But it's a cool, like it's a real superhero, sci-fi, cool story. It's like listening to an audiobook while flipping through a comic book. And I'm all about doing your own thing. I love that you guys are fans of what I've done. I work very hard on the shows that I've been part of, and I'm very, very humbled to be part of at least two of the most popular anime series of all time with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's great. It's fantastic. But you know what would really make me happy? If next year I was invited back to a convention like this, and half of you guys said, I've created my own show. A lot of people will do fan fiction. A lot of people will take our characters and shape them into their own versions. But why not just create your own character? As I said in the beginning of this panel, there's nothing that's new. Tell your own version of Romeo and Juliet. Put them in space or put them underwater or whatever it is. They're in a zoo. I don't care. But make your own thing. Don't feel like you've got to just be a fan of that. Be a fan of what you can create. So that's, I'm glad you're doing your original thing. Yeah.
Any advice for an aspiring voice actor who hopes to eventually find themselves on the other side of the booth as a voice director? Good question.
Who finds themselves on the other side?
Eventually plans to find themselves.
Oh, so I started as a director and then did voice acting and then did a lot of directing. If you ask me what I enjoy most as the fame side, it's great that you guys like my voice acting work, but from the creative side, it's more satisfying to direct. It's being the chef, putting all the ingredients together and baking that cake. It's really exciting. I learned more from actors while I was directing them of how to act. When you ask someone to do something and you see what they give you back, you should be digesting that as a sponge. Remember what I said about paying attention to the way you speak to people and how they respond. It's the same thing. If someone gives you direction in the booth, pay attention to how they're asking you. Is it clear? Is it not clear? Do they even know what they're doing? Line readings, very bad. I don't care if you're an actor who's directing. Do you know how you get around line readings? You read a similar phrase in the way you want to hear the phrase you want to hear. What do you mean? Let's say the line is, let's get out of here. And they're not reading it with the right energy. You're not going to tell that actor, no, like this, let's get out of here. You say, look, okay, there's a lot of urgency here. It's more like, we got to go. We got to go. It's more like, we got to go. Read it like that. And they go, let's get out of here. Because they're mimicking the cadence and the inflection, but with other words. So you haven't given them a line reading. You've given them a map. And that's how you get away with giving a celebrity a line reading, which I've done many, many, many times without offending them. All right, we got 2 more minutes. Who's got a really amazing question? I know you're feeling it. No pressure. Yeah, right. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm feeling good. Yeah, all right.
As of right now, I am unemployed. I would love to get into the acting and voice acting business. I really would. But of course, it costs money, and San Fran and Los Angeles are not the cheapest places to live.
True.
Where the hell am I going with this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you can be a big fish in a small pond. One of the things that I also recommend for people who want to get into voice acting is Audible, audiobooks. The production site for Audible is called acx.com. You can create a free page. You can look for books to read. The only thing you need to have is a quiet space, a working laptop, and a decent microphone. We're not talking a lot of money. My fancy microphone is $700. That's what I work on. I love it. It's a Rode K2. It's a great mic. I love it. Lifetime warranty on it. I've got a MacBook Pro. I've got a booth I built just so it's quiet, but my first booth was my walk-in closet. 3 walls of clothing and a carpet hanging on the door with a pole light. That was my first booth. If you have that, a good mic, and a laptop where you can run a basic editing program like Audacity, which is free, you could start auditioning for Audible tomorrow. Audible pays 2 different ways, by the finished hour or by the royalty split. Finished hour, oh, that sounds great. That means how long it runs when it's done, not how long it took you to read it. If you are a terrible reader and you got to do a lot of editing, that's probably not going to be great. Royalty split, well, that sounds cool. 50% of the royalties for lifetime, that's great if I'm doing the next Harry Potter. But if I'm doing John Smith's first book, maybe not so good. So you got to be careful about the rate that you deal with. Audible acts as the middleman. If you do a royalty split and they decide to sell that book somewhere else, Audible will shut them down because they're not allowed to sell it anywhere else. If you do a buyout finished hour deal, you get paid and then you can't get any money after that, which is normally what I do, unless it's for an author that's had a lot of sales. Well, how do you know? Look them up on Amazon. See how many books they've written. See where they are on the charts. That's what you do. But Audible would get you working as soon as you could get set up. And why do I say that with a guarantee? Because there are hundreds of public domain books that need to be read. They're ready to be read. You set up a page, you click off the things that you do. There are adjectives, funny, young, wry, accents, this, that. You click them off and you submit that on your page and you record examples of yourself reading books. And there's scripts up there that you can just grab and read. I want to read a children's book. I want to read a sci-fi book. You just do that. And you will have an opportunity to audition for these books. So that's the way to do it. All right, you guys have been a very good audience. Thank you so much. I will be doing autographs tomorrow, and then also I'll be playing a concert. As I said it before, I'm a singer-songwriter. I play all original rock and roll. I'll be doing a concert tomorrow at, I think, 6:30. For those of you who didn't read my bio because you weren't related to me, I toured with Ringo Starr, Peter Frampton, Leonard Skinner, did shows with Chicago, Hall & Oates. So my anime world is one thing, my rock and roll world is the other, and I love to introduce you guys to the full picture so that you can see that we don't just do one thing. And you don't have to just do one thing. If you want to be an entertainer in this world, you have to be involved in many different things. You never know what's going to click. So thanks, and hopefully next year I see some of your original projects. And all right, have a good one.